So today I made this beat and now I'm going to explain how I made it. For the first sound of the melody, I wanted to start off with the piano, so I grabbed the LA Custom C7 grand piano from Keyscape, so here's what that pattern ends up sounding like. Then hopping into the MIDI for that, as you guys can see, it is super complex and there's a lot of stuff going on. That's one of the reasons why I chose to make this a 16 bar loop instead of my normal 8 bar loops. That way I can use the second 8 bars as a more laid back and relaxed section where all of the chops are removed and the chords are lengthened a little bit. Then starting off with the chords themselves, like I've hammered home in the past 3 or 4 videos, I only use 7th and 9th chords for this to get a super jazzy feeling. Really those and any other chord that kind of sounds like it would be in an anime opening will work really well to get the sound we're going for. Then hopping over to the MIDI keyboard, let's break down the 2 chords that I really thought sounded nice in this melody. So the first one is something I've used in previous videos. And then you can also use this top note to kind of walk down the scale to transition between chords. Along with that, the other chord that I thought sounded nice is just a normal 7th chord. But you go ahead and replace this C sharp for a C. And that's another thing where you can kind of walk down the top note and it sounds really nice as a transitioning piece. Then hopping back into the MIDI, we can see those 2 chords that I just broke down. So first up is the F, A, C sharp, D sharp, and then I use those top notes to walk down the scale like I showed. And then here as well, I use the top notes to walk down the scale. But here we have the 7th chord with the C switched from C sharp down to C. After that, I laid out the bass line, and this is really one of those things that I think you have to feel it once you're placing it down, and really just adding and removing notes as you're playing the melody over and over again, just to give it a nice bounce and kind of find the little pockets where the bass notes fit. Moving on to the effects for that piano, I started off with Hyper Chorus on the default preset with the mix turned down to 40%, then an EQ just to cut the lows, and then finally Fruity Compressor on the vintage preset. After that, the next sound is the Duo Classic Super Chorus piano, again from Keyscape, so here's what that ends up sounding like. So then looking at the MIDI for that, like you guys just saw, this just copies those exact same chords that we just explained in the previous MIDI. Really the goal was just to kind of fill up the background of the melody and just fill up some space and make it sound a little bit more ambient and full. Moving on to the effects for that, I started off with Fruity Delay 3 with the mix turned down to about 40%, then again an EQ just to cut the lows, and then finally Ozone Imager to make it feel really nice and wide. Then for the next 3 sounds in the melody, they all kind of work together to create a really nice and textured top line. So the first one is a pluck called Fiasco from the Adapt Serum Bank, then the Lo-Fi Celeste key from Analog Labs Play, and then finally a one-shot called Old School Rap Lead. So here's what those sound like once they're all played together. Starting off with the MIDI for the Serum sound, again, this is a really simple pattern and all I did was copy what a clap pattern would do just to add a little bit of rhythm and bounce to the melody. After that, for the Lo-Fi Celeste piano, the goal here was just to create a really simple repeating pattern. The preset itself has a nice glitchy quality to it at the end of each note, so that's why I wanted to put in some of the lower octave notes that you see in the MIDI. Just having stacked octaves gives the preset a little bit more to go off of and makes the glitchy part of the preset more apparent in the melody. Finally, the MIDI for the Old School Rap Lead. This is again one of those things where I just kind of play the pattern over and over and over again, adding and removing notes to just kind of find the pockets where the lead fits. Then for the effects on those, starting off with the Serum sound, all I have on it is Pancake 2 on the default preset. Then for the Lo-Fi Celeste, this is an effect chain that I've explained in my previous videos, but it gives a really nice botanica and kind of an organic texture to your melodies. So I started off with Fracture on the Resonant Liquidity preset, then Fracture on the Classic Beat Repeater preset, then Portal on the Crystalline Accent preset, preset, then an EQ just to boost the low mids, and then finally, of course, an EQ just to cut the lows. Then for the effects on the old school rap lead, I started off with Time Machine on the 12-bit preset, then Fruity Chorus on the default preset, then Fruity Delay 3 on the Ping Pong preset, and then finally an EQ just to cut some of the highs, and I went ahead and turned the mix knob down to 60% on this. Finally, moving on to the last two sounds in the melody are two bass presets that I really like using together, and I think they always just sound really good when they're bouncing back and forth. So the first one is the Deep Pluck from Analog Labs Play, and the second one is Boo Bass with the bass knob turned up 2 notches. So here's what those sound like once they're combined together. Starting off with the MIDI for the Analog Lab sound, really the preset itself sounds really good, especially when you jump between octaves. So looking at the MIDI, we went ahead and used 3 different octaves just to kind of use the best parts of the preset and the parts of it that just really sound super unique. Then moving on to the Boo Bass MIDI, this really just fills in all of the areas where the other bass isn't playing, so they jump back and forth. These two presets working together works really well if you're going to want to use 2 basses for your melodies. I would really recommend trying it out. They're both free sounds and they both sound really good. Then finally, let's look at the drums. I started off by adding a basic clap pattern with a rim. Then I added a kick in kind of a Jersey club pattern. Then an open hat. Then a normal hi-hat. And then finally an 808. So after those drums were finished up, the beat was pretty much done. So here's what it sounds like once everything is combined and played together. That's going to be pretty much it for the video. Thank you guys for watching. I'll be interested to see how this does, because I'm just going to, the title is going to be, this is the beat I made, and now I'm going to explain how I made it, because all the videos have been doing pretty bad, so maybe doing something pretty silly will make it do a little better. Who knows? Second time recording this though. The first time I had my streaming preset in OBS, so the whole thing looked like this with a black triangle, since my face cam is on the floor right now. But yeah, I love doing things the second time. It's always better the third. Maybe even the fourth is like optimal doing things. If I could do something 4 times, that would be, oh yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.